Hello and welcome to this overview of Roland's VR50 HD Mark II AV mixer. So for the next 20 minutes, I'm going to try to cover as many features as possible. The most recent update, version 2.0, came out, added some new features, expanded on some existing features. So I might move a little quicker than usual because we got a lot to cover here. To start, just want to talk about some of the key features. So scaling inputs, all inputs have scalers, as well as aux video output to a center screen. So you have professional connectors and audio video routing with enterprise grade hardware reliability and touchscreen control. Let's talk about mechanical push buttons here to switch between sources and a LCD menu for control and to operate some of the advanced features. Built-in PTZ control. So on a network, you can control up to 6 cameras, including models from JVC, Panasonic, Sony Visca, and PTZ Optics. And improved audio and streaming over the VR50 HD Mark I. So like one big webcam, you can output HD video and audio to the platform of your choice. And for this demo, I'm going to have a picture-in-picture up here for the most of it. So you can see that that is the program out, which you can see right here. And then I'll be taking it down to also show you some of these audio controls in the audio section here as well. So to start, switching is pretty straightforward. You just choose the video input select that you want to go to. And you can also, we're going to talk about the inputs and outputs here briefly. So you can see on the bottom row, there's 4 SDI in, 4 HDMI in. And those are each mapped to 4 cross points that are shared. Same with the 2 composite and 2 RGB inputs can also be assigned to cross points 1 and 2. So for those inputs, for example, if I go back here and hit the input assign button, you'll see there's a different screen that pops up. It'll tell you the resolution of the current source, what connector type it is. And from here, you can change to some of the other sources. I might have some extra presentations on HDMI 1 and 2. And if I need to bring them in, I can just change the source type, or I can also put them on a composition layer. And we have a full chapter tutorial that goes over a lot of how to do all this on the Roland Pro AV YouTube page. But I just want to show it here in the context of this overview video as well. And a bit later, we're going to have a PTZ camera that I wish I had some more lights, but there's a PTZ that I'm going to show you as well. And here you can see I have some still images loaded. So I have 2 media players. This is a conference application. And I also have a picture-in-picture setup and a second picture-in-picture slash keyer, which I can use to bring in a graphic. So I'll show you those, as well as there's a still keyer. So for effects, you have 3 layers that you can put on top of that video. So for example, if I was to go to my presentation on input 3, so that's what program, that's what everyone sees, and then I want to bring in the speaker, you can see they're on preview right there in picture-in-picture, and so I can just press the picture-in-picture button. There's that window. If I want to bring in my graphic that I have on HDMI 4, see I had it already set up. There's source buttons that were added to the Mark II version to make it easier to access. So I can bring in my graphic there. I already set this up for a green chroma key. So you see if I actually turn this level down, that's the original source right there. So as I turn that key level up, in the detail menu, you can make it windowed if it's a picture-in-picture. So I turn the window off to make it full screen. Otherwise, if I turn it on, you can see it's smaller and I can position it. But I wanted that full screen graphic from my laptop coming in there. And I set up a green chroma key. And you can see there's that level control there. So, turn it down, it's green. I get rid of the green. Also, I have a still image. And for that, I had a black and white logo. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I kind of came up with here. So if I went to, that's the selected still image. So if I go to still, I'm also going to turn on the still key. So right now, everyone's seeing that logo. So that's the beginning of my conference. And then I start going to, the camera shot. So I press 2. Because the still key is still turned on, I can keep that logo. Then I can gradually fade it out. And you have your mix controls here. So like cut, mix, and wipe. And now I can go to the presentation, and then I can bring in the speaker. And if I have to bring in my logo here and there from the live graphic source, I can just do that occasionally. I can turn them both off at the same time. So you have some flexibility with how you want to control and operate the video inputs and composition effects. Going back to the I/O, you have two SDI and two HDMI outputs that can be assigned to program or aux. And when we were talking about auxiliary output, I basically have it set to input 3, where I could have the aux output just feed a center screen with just this presentation. So I make sure that there's no cameras pointed at the screen to create a video loop. So that's a nice way to have a fixed source as an output, but I can still switch it, or I can have it be a copy of program as well. Again, going back to the inputs and outputs, we went over those analog inputs as well. There's some two RGB component outs as well that you can utilize. So this can help cut down on converters you need for event production. It's all right in the box. And then there's that USB streaming port. So that's a USB 3.0 super speed type B connector. You can get a cable that converts it to type A, or the newer type USB type C connector. And then you just bring it into any software that would take a webcam. And so whether it's streaming software or video conferencing, and then this VR50 HD Mark II is like one big webcam source. And then there's that whole audio section. So you can see that there's 4 XLR TRS mic inputs. So you can bring in mic or line sources with that, as well as some dedicated line inputs. And those can also alternately be changed over to embedded audio for the video inputs as well. And you have 2 aux sends, pre or post fader. So you have some flexibility there if you need to set up a mix minus for video conferencing or for live streaming. And then also for control, there's LAN control and RS-232C. And then that rear USB port, currently you'd be using that for this latest update, because you have to update the network settings as well. So that kind of covers the inputs and outputs. So next, what we want to do is just talk about the audio section. So you can see you have faders for the main, and then for the aux sends, you have on the menu here, you have the controls here, and you can quickly bring it up to Unity by just pressing the Unity button and choose the send point as pre-fader or post-fader. Analog gain is for your preamp, and there's also a digital trim. And then, of course, your level control. I have 2 microphones connected here. I'm going to show you one of the automation features a little later. Video follows audio. And in addition to that, you also have a gate, compressor, and equalizer. And then for these additional sources here, these are the line ins. So you can either have it be, either, there's 2 additional mic inputs you can use through the 1/4 inch ins. Or they can just be the stereo line in, you have mono summing, or it can be the embedded audio from the video source. So if these 2 SDI cameras have microphones, and I have the audio coming in through there. So that means that I'm utilizing the embedded audio instead of the line ins there, but I still have line 3 and 4 if I need them. And so again, gate, compressor, and equalizer as well here. So you can set those in this page 2 of that menu. Some automation features. So, single operator solution. So during production, a lot can just be handled in this one box by a single operator. So you have auto mixing. So if you turn this on, you can assign weight values. The higher the weight value, the more priority that the audio source has in the mix. And then video follows audio we'll cover in a bit. For the outputs, you can set the levels, and you have solos and mutes, and you can also set which audio bus goes to which output. So if you have some of those aux mixes that you want to utilize, you can map the outputs there. And then also there's, for the main mix and the aux mixes, you have mastering, EQ, compressor, limiter, And in the latest update, there's some new features. So there's adaptive noise reduction, and then there's also a loudness control, and you can set the target loudness here. So if you're trying to go out to the web, maybe you want to bring it to minus 16 LKFS. So this is in that latest 2.0 update. This is one of the new features. And in addition to that, there's also a 15-band EQ for the main and aux mixes if you prefer to do your equalization there. Still images, we're going to cover that too as well. So I'm going to talk first about the composition layers in just a little bit more depth. So here you can see if you press the source button for, say, this picture-in-picture, and I'm going to turn this picture-in-picture on up here so you can see it as well. I can change the source just by doing this here, and I can go between my two SDI cameras, from this conference. And in addition to that, I can quickly edit the source if I need to, but usually where you end up wanting to go is this detail button to take you to the picture-in-picture settings. So here you see I can kind of change the size of the window, and if you press and hold the enter button while twisting the value knob, you can see it moves even faster. So I'm going to bring that back to where it was. I can change the position of it. I can zoom the video source within that window. I can zoom in on that a little bit. And so it's important to also understand the distinction between these three composition layers. So this is just a picture-in-picture layer. This is a second picture-in-picture, but it has a keyer. So you can either use a luma key or a chroma key to remove black and white or blue and green from a source, like, for example, that graphic. So when I bring that graphic up, I have the nice clean Roland logo, and that's a live source. So I can go to a different graphic slide and bring in a new graphic. And then there's the still key as well, which I just set up with a simple luma key overlay. So you can see if I turn that all the way down, that's what it looks like. And any of the 4 loaded still images can be that still key source. And if I wanted to change a still, I can press this this key here, and then I can change what the target still is when I go to it, or I can just tap it on the multi-viewer. And if I go between a still and a video input, it'll dissolve automatically each time. So you can get, so if I have these like segues for the presentation, I can just kind of do this. Okay, they clap, it's break time. And then when it's back to production, I can just go, back to the event. So some flexibility with that. Also here too is that if I wanted to, quickly switch between these two sources without going to input assign, I could just press 4 like this, and it'll change over to the SDI source, and I can then select that. I'm going to turn that section off for now. So still images, if you go to still load delete, you have the 4 slots. The USB stick does not have internal memory, so you have to keep a USB stick in there. I do recommend a low profile one so that it doesn't, get bent or anything. And so if you just have a little low profile one flush to there, you can leave the still images in there all the time. And if you forget to have the stick in there when you boot up, you can reload the last known configuration with that button. And then from here, you can choose a slot, and you can either delete the current still or load a new one off of your USB flash drive. Next, I'm going to show you video follows audio, and then finally we'll move on to PTZ control. So for video follows audio, I have mic 1 and mic 2 set up. And just so you can see it here, I got to get my microphones first here. As you can see, the meters are already going crazy. And when I enable this feature up here, mic 1 will go to input 1, mic 2 will go to input 2, but my go-to source will be input 3, because you can see I'm going to set the thresholds on page 2, so I made these a little more sensitive. And so when multiple mics are going, I'm not going to have this instance of video follows audio do anything. But when they're both below the threshold, it's going to go to input 3 of the presentation. So the idea is that when someone's talking, it'll go to their camera. So let's use our imaginations a little bit here, but this is going to kind of give you an idea of the microphones doing the switching for you. So I'm going to turn it on. So this is mic 2. And then this is mic 1. And if I'm on mic 1, and then all of a sudden mic 2 is going over the threshold, there we are on mic 2. And then back to input 3. So I'm going to turn that off so the switcher doesn't start randomly switching with the mics on the floor. And finally, I want to show you PTZ control. So I'm going to change this graphics source here to that SDI camera that I have. And notice too that even though that graphic is no longer there, if I press this pip key, I still have that Roland logo up there, because even though it's not an active source, you can still assign a composition layer to any connected source. That's a nice advantage with flex inputs on the VR50HG Mark II. And we have some more examples and application for that in the tutorial video on the YouTube page as well. So what I want to do is I want to go into camera control here. And first you're going to want to set up the network port as well. So I actually have a point-to-point with a network cable between a compatible camera and the switcher. So I just gave both a static IP address in the same range of each other. And of course you can change these settings and to whatever you need them to be. I'm going to go to camera control. I have it set up on camera 1, but I just want to show you camera 2 so you can see an example of the different options. So that's the JVC model, Panasonic's cameras, Sony or Visco over IP, and PTZ optics. So with these different options, you would just select the camera, set the IP address. There's no login and password for brands other than JVC. So I already have camera 1 set up. So you just have 2 IP addresses in the same range. They're connected over the network. And now I have presets for camera 1. You can recall all. I only have 1 camera set up, so this setting won't matter whether it's on or off. And on page 2, I have my controls. I already turned down the speed. If the camera has a tally light built in, then it can send a tally signal based on which input is selected. So you can map the 4 inputs to 4 cameras and activate their tally lights if they have it built in. But yeah, so here you can see that I need more light. But I'm going to zoom in here. And so here my PTZ camera is moving around with my couch full of Roland switchers here. And then if I wanted to recall a preset, if I want it to be a little faster, I can change the speed. So this is always highlighted too, which is nice. So you can see I have, it's a little easier to go faster here and, move it around. Now, if I do a recall preset 1, so I just recalled 1, right? But if I want to make a second preset, I just zoom in, and that's my new preset. And I hit store, preset 2. So that's stored now in camera 1, and I can just recall my various presets. So that works with all the supported brands and models of cameras. On the product page, you just go to support tab for the VR50HG Mark II page, and there'll be in the support section along with the manuals, near the bottom of the page is a full list of compatible cameras with this feature. So that about covers it on the VR50HG Mark II. Just want to review the key features on this model. So scaling inputs and aux video out. You saw the I/O on the back with that slide there. So professional connectors and audio video routing with enterprise grade hardware reliability and touchscreen control. So there's plenty of space and knobs and buttons and features on this VR50, so it brings a lot of controls to the operating surface. Built-in PTZ control, you saw me control one camera, but it controls up to 6, including models from JVC, Panasonic, Sony Visca, and PTZ Optics. And improved audio and streaming, so like one big webcam, you can output HD video and audio to the platform of your choice at up to 1080p 5994. So I want to thank you again for watching this video. And if you have any questions, just contact us. We're happy to help. Take care.